taken to the Walmart Global Board shortly is what we're given to understand. Now, Ashmit Kumar, our colleague, spoke with Vivek Gupta of BMR Advisors to find out if Walmart's new strategy is likely to face challenges and how he foresees this going through. Listen in.
It's different from Walmart's global model. Walmart globally is a multi-brand store. So the fact that they do only private labels in India under the Walmart brand would be a genuine compromise on the global model that Walmart does follow. But from a regulatory standpoint, I think that's the in that they get into India at this point in time. So single brand retail is perhaps what they can do for non-food products. And I'm not aware of the fact that they are considering this, but if they are, that's probably their into India in a meaningful fashion on the retail side.
Right. So within the four walls of the regulations, Walmart trying to be innovative. You mentioned that this is a departure from the norm that we see globally. Speaking of this as a departure, how many challenges, what are the challenges that they'll face, and will they need to go to the extent of also having a separate legal entity to allow these plans to take action?
So the retail company will need to be a separate company from a regulatory standpoint. There is no doubt about that. The basic challenge would be that they are then introducing only a very limited section of products. So when I walk into a Walmart in the US, for example, I can virtually buy anything under the sun. If this is private label alone, then basically a very limited section of what a Walmart would ordinarily offer is available to the Indian consumer. And if it's constrained by guidelines, I guess that's what they can do at the most.
Fair enough. But speaking of this two-legged strategy that Walmart has in place, we understand that the stores will be divided broadly into food and non-food segments. Just a question on the viability of such an approach, of this innovative strategy by Walmart.
So on the food side, of course, with the recent liberalization, I would call it a courageous liberalization. With the recent liberalization, they could do a multi-brand food retail store, of course, subject to conditions. So product sourced out of India and so on and so forth. The law on the subject is still evolving. So whether in the same entity, in the same store, can I do private labels plus food retail is something that would need to be tested and something that would need to be discussed with the government. But of course, multi-brand food stores with produce from India is something that is now open to 100% foreign investment. There are a bunch of challenges on the non-FDI side, of course, of this entire food business on the supply chain side, etc. But Walmart is very good at fixing the supply chain. So hopefully one would see Walmart food stores in India soon.
Fair enough. So one final question, this one of course with respect to the FDI regulations. As you rightly pointed out, they're yet to see that degree of judicial scrutiny, so it's to be tested. But given the broad understanding that we have of the FDI regime, especially with respect to retail, the conditions that are placed, the riders that are placed on the foreign retailers, does that in a way put them at a competitive disadvantage vis-a-vis the Indian players, the Indian retailers?
Yes, so from a regulatory standpoint, look, we cannot wish away the fact that retail is a very sensitive sector. So the fact that over the last 3 years we've seen some opening of the sector by and by, and we've seen some of the largest brands come into India now in a reasonably meaningful fashion is something to be lauded. At the same time, one has to realize that being a sensitive sector, it will open up gradually only. And therefore, if the strategy is correct, if this news is correct, then Walmart's strategy of getting into India by launching its private label and launching food retail on the side is something that gives them a direct experience of working with the Indian retail consumer. I guess the basic assumption would be that over time, retail will open even more as we go along. So as the government, as India gets more comfortable with foreign retailers selling in India, the sector is bound to open in the long term. And with that in place, you could take a first mover advantage by entering in this manner. We've seen stuff happen in e-tail. We've seen global giants in e-tail also come by and set up shop, invest billions of dollars. If this would mean that something would start happening on the physical retail side also, that would be welcome. And of course, at the end of the day, is it a competitive disadvantage vis-a-vis Indian retailers? Yes, but there are huge competitive advantages too. They know the business very well. They have the experience of operating it globally. They have large amounts of capital at their disposal. So as the Indian sector opens up, they could play a more active role in that sector.
Well, that's Vivek Gupta, partner at BMR Advisors, someone who tracks the retail sector very closely, saying that if this is indeed something that goes through, it will be an innovative model that a foreign retailer could deploy to make use of the opportunities as well as comply with the constraints in the Indian market. Now,